अस्सलाम वालेकुम, आप देख रहे हैं मुबश्शिर लुकमान यूट्यूब चैनल। मेरा नाम मुबश्शिर लुकमान है और एक दफ़ा फिर हमारे साथ इंडिया से बहुत ही मशहूर उनकी जर्नलिस्ट नीना गोपाल हमारे साथ हैं। मैं नीना गोपाल के मुतालिक एक बात ज़रूर आपको बताऊंगा ताकि आप लोगों को उनका एक बैकग्राउंड जर्नलिज्म का पता चले कि हमने एक साथ काम किया आज से बहुत साल पहले गल्फ न्यूज़ दुबई में भी, और उसके बाद हम जानते भी हैं एक दूसरे को और फैमिलीज़ को जानते हैं। जो राजीव गांधी साहब का आखिरी इंटरव्यू था जिसके बाद उनके पास सुसाइड अटैक हुआ था, वो नीना गोपाल वहाँ कर रही थी और ये गाड़ी पे उनके साथ गई थी, गाड़ी में वो इंटरव्यू हो रहा था। मैं भी उस वक्त यानी उसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में था और हम फॉलो कर रहे थे और अल्लाह ने बाल बाल बचाया एंड शी वाज सेव मिरेकुलसली, बल्कि शी वाज सपोज्ड टू बी विद राजीव एट दैट टाइम व्हेन दैट सुसाइड बॉम्बर केम इन, बट लकीली शी वाज सेव. Thank you once again, Nina, for joining us. And I was just reminiscing about those times that you spent with Rajiv Gandhi Sahab. And, you know, what a tragedy it was and what a tragic day it was.
It was. It still makes my hair stand on end. Yeah. And people constantly, when they introduce me this way, and I feel that, you know, that I want to close that chapter. I don't want to think about him that way. But
actually,
he was such a wonderful guy.
When we talk about people like Rajiv Gandhi, Indira Ji, or Benazir Bhutto, or Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, we are not talking about slain human beings. We are talking about slain ideologies. You know, with that, you do a lot more damage to a society, which is a very tolerant society, and you breed intolerance. That is why we keep on bringing such things again and again.
That's true. Rajiv Gandhi, in fact, was the first man who reached out to China.
Yeah.
In 1988, he made this incredible visit to China where he befriended Deng Xiaoping. And that is when they brought that arrangement where they would have no problem on the border. And that stayed like that for years.
And what a change it was from his grandfather's time. You know, his grandfather actually had a heart attack over China in the 1960s.
Yeah. But that was an ideological, you know, I think his whole attitude. I think Nehru's biggest error of judgment was that he was a socialist. And he saw the rise of China and Russia as an ideological counter to the imperialist US. You know, he was very anti-West. And so that's why he promoted China's entry into the Security Council, into the UN, into the Southeast Asian grouping. So I think he actually made an error of judgment in not understanding what Mao's thoughts were about vis-a-vis India.
Right. Coming to India, what is COVID-19 doing over there? We believe that, you know, thousands and thousands of businesses have closed. The economy is really down the drain. Any ray of hope for India and Indian businesses over there?
Well, the economy is tumbling, and now with the H-1B visa also becoming a problem, you know, India being blanked out, because, you know, 70% of the H-1B visas where young Indians, go and work in these IT companies, because the IT boom actually changed a way that young people, the young Indian engineers and all that, sought employment in these IT companies. So I think that is something that the government really has to look at. They are saying that it will give a boost to IT companies here in India. I don't know whether that's really possible. And all of the industries that are there, the industrial sector in Maharashtra, the industrial sector in Tamil Nadu, which was very, very big in the south, the tourism sector in Kerala has been shot to pieces. So, you know, both manufacturing and tourism, which is the biggest money spinner, for India, is, I think, in big trouble. I don't know whether we can come out of it. I have no idea. All they're talking about, the government is talking about giving, free food to the poor, and, giving some kind of some money, to poor people. I don't know whether all that is going to work out. I think what they have to do is tackle Corona, and they have to push up. I believe that by August 15th, they're hoping that one of the many medical facilities which are putting together research on a vaccine will have something. If that does happen, then I think we will have some kind of a change. But until then, it's not looking good for India.
But if you allow me and give me the margin that I am a Pakistani and I have to sort of pinch you once in a while, your government is spending more money on buying arms and ammunition. And yesterday, India became the biggest importer of arms and ammunition. So, and then you compare that with the spending on COVID. I mean, does it make sense?
It doesn't. But you do realize we're a democracy and that everyone has to win elections. Right? So he cannot, Mr. Prime Minister Modi cannot win an election, if we get a bloody nose from China. We have to show our muscle. We have to show that we have, that we're fighting China. That's the only reason. But you're right. On COVID, they could have done a lot more. They could have basically, I don't think they could have set up far more testing facilities. They could have set up treatment facilities, and the lockdown should have been far smarter. And that whole business about the migrant labor, that they were stuck for hundreds and thousands of migrant laborers from Maharashtra, Karnataka, and all of these people who wanted to go home back to UP and Bihar were, I think, the other trigger for COVID. Yeah, we haven't handled COVID properly. We haven't handled it smartly. And yes, we now have the challenge of a China which is, snapping away at our borders. It's a tough, it's not going to be easy for any government.
But Modi could have learned from Kerala. I'm told they've done a great job.
They have. Do you know the Chief Minister of Kerala and I are basically neighbors? He comes from my hometown.
God help him.
Yes.
Tell him he's the blessed one.
Same again.
Yeah.
No, but he has been lucky because Kerala went through a series of health challenges. There was the SARS, there was the Nipah virus, and then came COVID. So by the time it came to COVID, they did have a plan, and the health services in Kerala as well are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The Kerala model of governance actually is to be followed, I think, across the country, because the communists, they actually ended the patriarchy, the whole business of the landed gentry being the givers of all good. They gave land to the tiller. They offered free education. So for the last 30-40 years, more than that, actually 60 years, every Keralite has had access to free education. And apart from that, you have free healthcare. So they've used all that, and it's like a huge village. Kerala is not urbanized, barring one or two cities. So everyone knows everyone else. So you take care of your neighbor, whether you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're a Hindu, whatever it is. People live in amity, and they take care of each other. So it's a great state. I agree. I'm very proud to be from Kerala.
Excellent. Now, but I mean, okay. Need I go in that, the part of Kerala you come from is a fairly aggressive part of Kerala, and you people are fond of killing each other.
They call the killing fields.
Yeah.
The killing fields of Kannur.
Yeah.
I call them the killing fields of Kannur. Yeah, it's a very interesting demographic actually, because the fight is basically ideological. It's a fight, and it's not settled with fisticuffs. It's settled with a scythe. The blade that is used to harvest the wheat and rice. So basically, they just chop you up. So it's the Marxists versus the RSS, which is the BJP's arm, or the Marxists versus the Congress. And yes, people have died, very horrific deaths, but that has become a lot less in the last 4 years, ever since Pinarayi Vijayan took over, because he used to be one of the Marxists used to be headed by him at one point in my part of town.
That is my point actually. That would be my next question. within India, as I see it, and I read about it, that you have this Marxist issue, you have the Naxalites, and then you have the Manipurs, and you have the Arunachal Pradesh, and you know these various things that are sort of brewing up over there, and India now busy on two of its borders, in fact the third border as well, to a degree. How easy or difficult will it be for Indian businesses to survive, because this is going to discourage a lot of DFI and direct financial investment into India. So unless and until you try to pacify either your borders or internally, you're going to have a very messy situation.
No, internally, all of these movements that you talk about were actually at the height of it was in the 60s and the 70s.
Okay.
You know, much of it has petered down. Much of it has the next generation has come in. And I mean, I've gone into the jungles, and I've actually interviewed these people, you know, both the Naxals and so on. Their ideology is stuck in a time warp. And the new people who are there don't want to have anything to do with it. Like I said, there's a huge new demographic in India. You know, the 20 to the 30-year-old is the new India, and he makes up the maximum amount. He dominates the voter, he dominates the workspace, and he's a very he or she is a very with it person, you know, and they're very liberal, they're very forward looking, and that is the new India, really. You know, this old India of the 60s and the 70s, I mean, you had movements like this throughout the world, Mubashir. You know, you had anti-government moves throughout the world. I don't think that's a factor anymore. The factor that is more troubling is actually what comes in from Afghanistan and from groups that are trying to win ISIS, basically, which has had an impact in whipping up anti-Hindu sentiment, in parts of Tamil Nadu, parts of Kerala. That is what actually worries the security services more than the Naxals now.
Neena Gopal, thank you very much for being with us once again. You've been extremely candid, frank, and honest about your opinions. I'm sure the viewers will want to see you more and more often, and I hope we can rope you in again and again. Thank you for being with us. You were watching Neena Gopal from India. और यह है कि दूसरों का ओपिनियन सुनना भी उतना ज़रूरी है जितना हमें अपना ओपिनियन देना पसंद होता है. It's always important to hear what somebody else has to say about. आप इस पर राय ज़रूर दीजिएगा, कमेंट्स दीजिएगा, इसको सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकॉन प्रेस करें. Until the next time, Allah Hafiz.